the intro music. Yeah! Woohoo!
Welcome back, Starship Fleet Commanders. Go ahead and drop the comments about how stability this month was awful, because I already know I'm going to hear a lot of it from you. I'm going to hear a lot about how y'all thought stability was terrible. But don't worry, because we're going to show you today the grades from what you voted this week. So those that don't know, for a 48-hour period, we leave things up for voting so we can determine what the grades were the past month. And that helps us, number one, as content creators, have a better idea of you, the community, and how you feel. And number two, it lets the dev team see something that isn't from their own internal metrics of how players feel. And when thousands of players can respond and watch videos and listen to podcasts, well, I feel like their voice means something. And this is going to be a video where we discuss that. Now, I'm not going to put any added frills and craziness in there. Of course, if you have extra questions, join the Discord. But starting off with the officers. Now, you're going to see a theme here where, and this could be part of a discussion kind of throughout this video, you know, because in December, we always do like a yearly recap. Did the game get better? And the truth is, for the majority of players, a lot of this is going to be mostly positive. Now, officer grading, you're going to see that between A and B, it is over half the player base gave it a very positive grade, with another 29% that said C. Basically, nobody said the officers were bad. Now, people don't necessarily like the sourcing of the officers, which is a continual complaint that we have as players. I actually was having a pretty good and I thought thoughtful conversation with the dev team this morning about it. Now, while we don't agree on all points, we do agree on generalized things like better officer sourcing, better sourcing for certain primes coming out, and maybe it's something that comes out in the near future. We'll just have to wait and see. But officers, y'all voted. Again, about 1,400 people responded in 48 hours. Appreciate y'all for being willing to do that and said positive things about that. Ship grading, the Borg cube itself, again, mostly positive. You see A plus from 8.6%, 18% with an A, another 29% with a B. So again, majority of players very happy with the features coming out this month, in this case being the Borg cube. And to expand like kind of beyond the cube, talk about just features in general, again, mostly positive. See B there with the overall features, though a big C. I think the big C is going to be because so much of it was based around G6, and I know a lot of y'all just don't really care about G6 because you're not there yet, right? So that's what you would see in this graph, where feature grading is okay, but I mean, you look at the Borg extension tree, that is beyond wildly positive feedback, because that is research that applies to everybody, is useful to everybody, and the majority of players liked it. Very few people found no value from the Borg research tree, and I'm not including the G6 part here because very few people obviously qualify for the G6 comments, and we're going to send those G6 comments directly to the VIP overlords. So let's talk about the drawbacks, though. Like, these are good things, and I know not everybody can agree, and that's completely okay. In fact, let me just go ahead and say, if you agree with the feature gradings, if you agree with the comments, if you agree with the officers, post, because it's not just the survey, right? Like, we try to get the sentiment of players from Facebook, technically even Reddit, Twitter, Discord, YouTube. We try to get it from a variety of sources, right? Because every player's voice and every player's feelings are valid. And that's really important to stress for me, because if you disagree with this, like you gave it a straight F, that's valid, 100%. You are entitled to that, and you should actually have your opinion heard. So if you do disagree, type down below. But here's where we start getting into like the universal agreement. And what you're going to see has kind of been a trend throughout this year. Communication, horrible grades, 32% F and a 31.3% D. And this is, and I talked about in the video, it was up or down. Like, there actually weren't terrible weeks of communication, but there were communication just complete lapses, right? And then I think part of this also falls into the fact that it was extremely underwhelming for the 5-year anniversary. I have no idea how they thought that was going to be a great way to celebrate 5 years. I think that probably soured people's opinion a little bit. The communication was really rough, but here you have it, right? Like, communication, that's a complete fail. I mean, I know generally we would only consider an F only as a fail, but for me, if it's a D or an F, that's a failing grade. If it's a C, that's like not good enough, but it's okay, and B's and A's are passing. That's kind of like how I see it. I realize that's not how everybody else sees it, but whatever. So either F is pure failing, D is still like you're unhappy, right? Like, you're not very happy. So that was communication. And then we get to the biggest one because they had an extremely rough launch. Here's stability, 40% F, 37.5% D. And obviously that's not a passing grade. Like clearly that's a problem. And this is actually part of a bigger theme because lately, even though the players, now this is also, I want to be very clear. There's a reason that myself and Archduke asked for assistance because this only covers up to August. I know what the previous months are. I just don't have them, all on the same chart. But if you can see on the left side of your screen, that's talking about officers, ships, features, calendar, generally positive. There are ups and down months. This month, the calendar got pretty good grades. But I mean, if you get it a C plus or a B when you're averaging things out, that's pretty good, especially when you look over here with the plus. Like we have more positives than negative type comments. But what has been a continually downward trend is communication and stability. And you're going to see that here. Now, again, you are missing a couple months because this is 50 through 57. This was recently 60, which is why we asked for help. By the way, going through the comments to make sure that we can kind of like expedite how quickly we get these out. Definitely appreciate it. I think we've easily passed about 15,000 total responses. Obviously, there's going to be some overlap there. So that's incredible to have that many players being willing to sit down and take the survey, as well as the people who are willing to sit down and leave comments and come to the live streams and do all the things because they want the game to be better, right? Because we all love this game. We love this community. And again, I'm not discounting YouTube comments. They are very, very important. But as you can see here, there's been a trend lately. The communication, the stability has gotten worse. Like, I would argue that we're at a point where we're getting very close to how bad communication was 2 or 3 years ago. And that's not something that the players want, obviously, but more importantly, it's not something they can handle, because the game is so much bigger than it was 2 or 3 years ago. Not getting great communications in 2019, 2020 is not really that big of a deal. Like, hey, 2019, there was no such thing as a battle pass. There was no such thing as incursions. There was no such things as alliance assaults. And there's no such thing as armadas. Like, the game was a much simpler time. It was basically, here's Star Trek, go explore. That's not what the game is today. And it needs better communication. And it's just simply not getting it. And it's not been getting it for a consistent amount of time. And to be very clear, I'm not complaining about communication from a standpoint of like, oh, they should tell you, exactly why packs are designed how they are and stuff. I'm talking about like that we had server 80 and server 97 basically have a complete collapse and no real acknowledgement of that. I don't even know if there's a comp that's going to go out to those players because of that. But we're talking about major issues in the game not being discussed, not getting posted in in-game news, not getting posted on the social media accounts, and every now and then Discord gets thrown a bone. And the wild thing is, and this is just my opinion, I welcome all comments who agree or disagree. My opinion is y'all actually like the game more now than you ever have. Truly, I really do believe that. After talking to so many people for so long, y'all like the game, what it has, the things you can do, the features, the ships, all the different officers to collect. Y'all enjoyed the game more as a whole than you did when it came out, but you're unhappy because the stability is bad and the communication is inconsistent at best. Now, again, that is not to say that there aren't people who don't like things, because to be very clear, features, bam, up there, that's not all A's, right? Like, I'm not here to blow smoke up anybody's butt. Bam, here's officers. That's not all A's, right? So I'm not trying to say that all y'all are just like, yay, game, yay. I get it. You're not. But at the same time, has the game gotten better? I mean, clearly people are happier since we've started doing the grading for officers and most of the ships. I mean, we've had one ship that flopped, and that was the Titan, right? The Cube didn't flop. Voyager didn't flop. Voyager's annoying as heck with its grind, but it didn't flop, right? The Titan flopped. It did. Is with Talios didn't flop. So, I mean, there's been good there. Features have had great things, right? The Borg tree, fantastic. The extension here with the Borg stuff is fantastic. There's actually some stuff coming out next month. Fantastic. Field training, fantastic. There's some really good things that have happened. But the biggest thing that so many players keep coming back to me about and what I would say 70% of my complaint messages are things like stability. And you can see it here. It's like, I actually messaged this to the devs, like it looks like a peace sign, but it means war. And this is where the game has such an issue, because I understand that the game has to make money, and the way it makes money is new content. But if your game is literally falling apart stability-wise, and this is what your players think, you need to find a happy medium between releasing content and fixing some bugs. So I don't normally make videos right after showing y'all the grades, but I feel like we're at a point now, because we're ending this year, which means we're going to start a new year. And new year, new resolutions, new paradigms. Hopefully we can get them to see stuff like this and go, you know, maybe we really should focus on building that crappy code or rebuilding something that needs to get touched on. Or, you know, how about the quadrillion STEM field people who recognize the problems and go and play on your dev servers that shouldn't be playing on your dev servers, that can tell you what's broken and actually listening to them? I don't know. Either way, there's the grades for everybody. Now you know. Live long and plunder. Stay safe for their Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Out and bye.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.